So some of you guys may have seen this short. TFL Truck, which they seem like a great group of guys. I don't know them, but one of their guys made a short about it was one of those little like Japanese Honda, the white trucks, I forget what they're called, next to a Toyota Tundra, and he was saying American trucks are stupid and Americans are dumb because the small truck makes way more sense than the big truck. And I honestly agree. I know that they were probably making that, as I have made many shorts, to get attention and cause controversy and get people whipped up. But what I thought was really interesting was actually breaking that down a little bit. Because basically they were saying Americans just have big trucks because, you know, it's an American thing and we're really wasteful and whatever. I did start to think about that and be like, yeah, like someone like me who, you know, isn't an owner operator for a towing business, I definitely don't need to daily a 8,000 pound truck with a V8 diesel motor. Like, it's a nice to have, but I could definitely stuff myself into a Prius and it would be totally fine. But for work purposes, it got me thinking about, okay, so, you know, like Hot Shots and other people in the US that tow their vehicles, you know, maybe they don't need big trucks either. And it got me thinking of this question, like, why are American trucks big? And this is, again, going to be my opinion, so please leave a comment if you, the viewer, think I'm incorrect or if you have another theory. But the US is bigger than Europe. So to me, if I was a trucker driving around Europe, I mean, the state of California is bigger than France and like 5 of the other European countries put together and has a GDP that's larger than all of them combined, right? So one of the things I thought was very illustrative of this is that to drive from Denver, Colorado to Boston, Massachusetts is about 2,000 miles. Right? That's not even spanning the full width of the continental US. You're just going from Colorado to Massachusetts. It's about 2,000 miles. To go from Paris to Moscow is only 1,750 miles. And of course I say only. But these European countries are very small. They have, you know, roadways that snake everywhere. They're not spanning multiple states, right? I mean, each European country is about the size of a US state, especially the big ones. I know there's small US states. But that got me thinking, part of the reason that US trucks are larger has to be for comfort for the drivers for long journeys, right? Like, and again, I know like this is my own theory and I wanted to make a video about it just to talk about like the theory and see what other people thought, right? Because it does, like when you think about it, you're like, wow, American trucks are really wasteful. Why are they so big? But this, like I drove from New Hampshire to Whistler in Vancouver or in British Columbia, which is, what is like 3,500 miles in a Hyundai Elantra hatchback when I was in college. And my body felt like it was going to implode after doing that drive. Like, you can do them, that, you know, that's totally fine. Like, it works. People do it all the time. You can drive small cars, but they're not comfortable. And so the theory I came to after seeing that TFL truck short was like, yeah, well, you know, European trucks don't have to travel that far. If I'm a hot shot and I'm towing a car or I'm towing, I don't know, hunting blinds or any number of items that you would want to take as a load as a driver across the United States, I don't want to take that load in a truck that is the size of a cubicle, right? I want one that's like the size of my living room. I think that's where a lot of the need for these larger trucks comes from. And I'm speaking like for truckers, not for people like me that just daily them, right? Because at that end, like, you don't really need that big of a truck. It helps because I do drive a lot of miles, but these Euros aren't taking that little truck and going to Moscow 5 times a month, right? Whereas like a hot shot could be taking loads thousands of miles, you know, all over the place. And so it really makes you think, hey, you know, maybe American trucks actually do kind of make sense when you have to drive from Paris to Moscow once a week for your job. And again, I totally get that some of you will be like, yeah, but you know, you don't need them as your daily. And that is completely correct. But I think potentially part of the genesis of American cars and why they're so large and why they're built more for like highway comfort. Like our vehicles, they don't turn well. They, you know, handle like crap. They go really well in straight lines. And that's because in order to get anywhere in the US, if you're driving multi-state highways, you're going to be going for a long time in a straight line at like 80 miles an hour. So what vehicles are good for that? Big block V8s and diesels. Big diesels, right? That can sit at like 1,500 to 2,000 RPM when you're cruising at like 75 in 6th or 10th gear in these new Super Duties. And they'll just get you there. I think that the American trucks that are on the road are driving more miles than those little Hondas in Japan or in Europe that the Euros use to drive around town with. They're sick around town vehicles, but do I want to drive from Paris to Moscow in it? Probably not. I want a big cab with big comfy seats where I'm up over the road and I feel safe and I can putt down the road and tow a load or do whatever I need to do. Trucking was such an important part of our culture in the last 100 years, even since the advent of the auto. You know, because our country was so big, trucking, it used to be something that you could make a really decent living at. Sadly, I mean, even though truckers are like the most important people in our society, they don't get paid as they should. And that is, I have a lot of friends that are CDLA drivers, and I won't even get into that because what's happening right now to the trucking industry is really messed up and it's not cool. I think our culture is kind of built around large vehicles because the country is large and people wanted a large, comfortable, powerful V8, you know, especially when fuel prices are low, to drive thousands of miles, especially if you're towing. So I think I'm starting to talk in circles now, but I wanted to discuss this topic and I'm curious what you all think. As a side note, I am actually working on trying to start my own hotshotting business, which should be very interesting for the channel. I have some hoops to jump through. I thought it would be good for the channel, in addition to doing some action sports filmmaking, which has nothing to do with trucks, to pick up another side gig that would help me stack miles on this old thing and bring you guys more content and more relevant content from someone who's actually driving a lot of miles. So we did 37,000 miles this year. Next year, we're going to try to do 50,000. But I am in the middle of doing that, and I'm hopeful I will get something set up by the end of January and be able to start taking some loads in this thing. And it's a 250, which is nice because it's capped at a 10,000 GVWR, which means that my commercial driver's insurance will probably be a lot less than someone who would have a dually, which is very nice. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you spending your time on my channel. I post videos every Wednesday if you're new here. And I am just trying to document my journey as an owner of a 2019 Powerstroke 6.7. I am not a Ford fanboy per se. I like all brands. I think all brands have their issues. And the biggest thing I've noticed is that I feel like in the last 20 years, the auto manufacturers have dropped the ball in more ways than one, and that us as consumers are getting shafted. So anyway, soapbox aside, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on Powerstroke Maintenance. Cheers.